For the record, for posterity, today is the 26th of July, 2008. We're here in Laramie, Wyoming, at the home of Elliot and Liz Johnson. Behind the camera is David Johnson, and several other Johnsons. I'm the third son of Barb Johnson and Roy Johnson, and we're here with the six matriarchs and patriarchs.
Boy, do I feel important now.
I feel more important. There's less of us.
Of the Johnson clan.
Yeah. Present.
Maybe ask you a question.
I just wanted to say I'm present.
That's a good thing.
Okay.
And
It's going downhill.
exactly. Don't worry, we're going to edit this heavily.
Director lost control.
So,
Cut.
well, mostly this is the way I had conceived of this is to a record to preserve for the rest of us in posterity, and to get.
Oh, this could be buried in a rock somewhere. They'll dig it up 100 years from now.
Yep.
And what I'd like most out of the six of you is as much family history as we can get on the record in 60 minutes.
Well,
We can't tell everything.
We got to talk to the
Well, you
older
can't tell
people.
everything, of course.
Yeah,
but,
we got to talk to the older people.
Our memory is fading.
well, this is why we're doing it today on Greta.
Okay, sir.
So before it fades any deeper.
Before it fades anymore.
So
Oh, God.
what I thought is that we'd start with all six of you and just state your name, your birth date, and where you were born.
Okay, I'm Greta May Johnson Guida. Oldest daughter of Albert and Mamie Johnson. I was born in Oakland, Nebraska, in a small hospital that was named, what was it? What was our Nelson?
Yeah, it was Nora Nelson.
Nora Nelson
Yeah.
Hospital. And May, did I say my birthday? May 22nd, 1932.
All right.
God, that was a long time ago.
Longer every day.
I'm Jon Johnson, and I'm the second child of Mamie and Albert. 6:30:35, and I also was born at the same hospital in Oakland.
I'm Barbara Mamie Johnson Johnson. I kept that name because I couldn't learn to spell another name. I was born on August 17th, 1938, and I will be 70 years old in about 3 weeks! Which doesn't make me very happy because it's all downhill from there. One foot in the grave and the other on the banana peel. That's it.
Well, what does that say for me?
You're in much better shape than I am, I think.
I hate to inform you, but you've been sliding for a long time. I'm James Verlin Johnson, the baby of the family of Albert and Mamie Johnson, born January 16th, 1943, in the same hospital, maybe the same room, maybe the same doctor, who knows?
It was.
Horse Heath Benson.
And we all survived.
Dr. Benson.
Dr. Benson. Horse Teeth Benson. Long teeth. Huh?
Elliot, what do you think?
Are you done?
Are you gonna? Elliot Emmanuel Johnson, Elmer and Edna Nelson Johnson, born in the same darn hospital as all these others. He's the only one in the modern hospital. Oakland, Nebraska, February 25th, 1943.
I'm Randall Dale Johnson, the baby of Elmer and Edna Nelson Johnson. I was born in the new hospital, July 16th, 1950. So as you can see, I'm much younger than any of these folks.
Well, that's amazing.
I forgot to
That's-
say-
Your name
I
was
forgot to say I'm the third
Midland
child.
Just now? You didn't know that?
No.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And you
Why
didn't
and
have
I
the same
talked-
doctor.
It's always been
Oh,
Randall
no,
D.
it was
and
just
never
terrible.
moved.
No,
Yeah.
I am the third child of Albert and Mamie Nelson Johnson. And I also was born in Nora Nelson Hospital. It was like an old house converted into a hospital.
On Osborne Avenue, I think.
No, Freed Street.
Freed Street.
Okay.
And it seemed big at
I
the
thought
time.
you
It was pretty little.
I thought you already gave your spiel.
I forgot to say I was the third child.
Oh,
Well, we all knew.
Well,
You're also
Can-
the favorite. In
yeah.
case you don't know, she's
Oh, we're
right.
starting already.
The favorite, yeah.
I was
Yes,
not.
you were spoiled rotten.
Are you trying to steal the platform?
No.
Can the two groups of children explain your relation to one another?
We're cousins.
First
First
cousin.
cousin.
first cousin.
How?
Albert and Elmer were brothers.
Yes.
And they were the sons of.
Jay Victor.
Jay Victor and
Alma.
Alma.
John, Victor,
John Victor Johnson and Alma.
and Amelia.
Alma Otelia Johnson.
Oh, no, Alma, Delia, yes.
We agree.
And they were imports from Sweden.
And
We
you,
agree.
They were married in Omaha. Did you know
Yes,
that?
they were.
Yeah. We found their marriage certificate.
Yeah,
Oh, did you?
Yeah, yeah. Married in a Swedish church in Omaha, Nebraska.
in 1900.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that before.
do you know where they were born and where in Sweden when they came in?
Småland, I think.
Yeah, that was a province, but I don't know.
Oh,
town.
exactly.
Who was born in Skåne?
That was family.
Mom's parents.
Yeah,
Oh, because we went down there when we went to Sweden.
Oh, did you?
that was Nelson.
The poorest part of Sweden at that time.
Really?
Yeah, Skåne. Grandma Nelson talked down about that.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
she didn't have much.
Really?
Yeah.
You talked down about what?
Skåne.
Folks,
Skåne.
Skåne.
Mm.
They were the poor class of people.
I,
Part of the
yeah.
Sweden, yeah.
Well, they lived on potatoes practically. That's why a lot of them came to the United States.
All
because
of us
they-
were-
Funny thing, that's
All
what
of us
we
were
did.
raised on.
Can you all speak up just a tiny
All
bit?
of us
What?
were.
Exactly.
All of us were raised on a farm. Even Jim, even though he was pretty much a city kid.
Yeah, it's pretty much city.
And now, did any of you speak Swedish, or how much Swedish did your parents speak?
They,
Oh, our mother couldn't speak Swedish or couldn't speak American when she started school, and supposedly the teacher was very hard on her because she couldn't speak English. And isn't that right?
That's what we heard.
Yeah.
and Randy and our parents, both of them.
Yeah, same thing.
They
But
didn't want us to understand.
None of us picked it up.
No.
Now we're.
Well, Mom was.
You tried to in college, remember, you got to,
Yeah,
you
didn't
tried to do it, yeah.
Didn't work.
I mean, you tried to do it for a while.
Well, Mom could say a few words. I mean, she could
Oh,
understand it more
they
than
could
she could
gossip in
speak it.
Swedish. Yeah, they could gossip in Swedish when they wanted to. Somebody's listening on the party line. They could do that.
Could you talk a little bit about your schooling when you grew up? Aunt Greta, maybe starting with
Well,
you.
I started in District 43, which was north of Oakland, and I was one of three in the first grade. We never had kindergarten back then, because you started right into the first grade. And I was a redhead. My girlfriend was, two girlfriends, one was a blonde and one was a brunette, and it was Elsie Siverson was our teacher. And in March, we moved to Rick Cruz's farm, and that was traumatic to leave my girlfriends. You know. Yeah, but anyway, then we started in District 64, and at that time, Vivian Anderson is one I remember as a teacher, and she married Fergie Nelson. So
And Uncle
anyway, it was one room schoolhouse all the way to the 8th grade.
and Uncle John.
Yeah, I started in District 64 with Vivian. And I went to all Yeah. Then I went to 1 year of university and went into the Army after that for 2 years.
Go to school? Just checking, I thought you did.
I did go to school. Walked across the field. Through the cockleburrs.
We all did that.
Well, you didn't tell us. This is my story.
I was like, you were the only one.
She was a school. It was half a mile. We had to walk a half mile up and down hills.
Both ways.
Both ways.
Yes.
And then in the winter time, we got to ride with the Dad and Mr. Pedersen took turns taking us. And the Pedersen girl, there were four daughters who were fed quite well, and
They see this on YouTube, now they feel bad.
oh, they won't. Anyway, I can remember we would get bacon and eggs once in a while, maybe on Saturdays, but never during the school week. And they drove a great big old Dodge car with a big ram on the hood. And we'd get in that big old car, and of course we'd all be piled in there and sweating bullets because it was so hot in there. And they smelled pancakes and bacon and eggs, and I would just sit there and drool. And then they'd come lunchtime, and they'd open their bags, and they always had potato chips. We never got potato chips to school. Never. Kitty Clover potato chips.
Oh, you got better memory than I do.
Oh, I remember that. That's in my brain. I'll never forget that. If I could just have a bag of potato chips. We'd have them if we had company. You know, Mom always entertained for birthdays and stuff. And we always had them then, but we never were able to take them to school with our lunch. Never.
I can remember like the Begleys who worked for us.
Yeah.
They rode too once in a while. So
Boy,
that's
we
what
were piled in that old Dodge. I know that for sure, because we were sitting on laps and everything else.
And I remember the Carlsons that lived across the way, you know, she
Yeah.
was a widow with the two boys are twins, and then, was it?
Where's that?
The Carlsons, and didn't they work for Fergie, I think?
Yeah,
You know,
she
they
was a
were
housekeeper
housekeeper for Fergie,
before he got married because he'd been Anderson.
yeah.
What Carlson was that?
Well, they moved to, LA after that. Well, first they went to Sioux City. So
Where
that's
Marvin
where-
Peterson's lived? Is that where they lived?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember them all.
And I used to walk across the road. I think John and I both did.
Yeah, they were big,
Yeah.
tall kids.
Very tall. Yeah, we'd stop there and she'd always have something. They never drank coffee. What was it? They,
Oh, I don't remember that.
Sanka. No, it wasn't Sanka.
Post.
Posta?
Oh my gosh. Don't you remember the Posta?
No, I don't remember that. I can remember them boys, but I don't remember that.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And then I can remember the first electric fence walking to school. Remember that? Oh my.
You touched it?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
I didn't know it was electric.
Oh, I knew you. Wow.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, it wasn't as strong as they have today.
No,
When
the
they got
zappers.
older.
Yeah. No, I had to try it.
I know.
I only tried it once.
Country school was really fun.
Yeah.
We used to play softball, and we'd play other schools. There were several, at least 2 other schools in our area. What was that one over east? Where,
District 13 was the one.
yeah, when was one?
District 62.
Wasn't Liz.
What?
District 62.
62?
Was
Okay.
east, and then District 13 was south. That's the one that got wiped out by the tornado.
And that was a big school. That had 2 rooms.
Yeah.
Two
We only
teachers?
had-
2 teachers,
No.
but no?
No,
I don't
not
know.
teachers.
One teacher, but 2 rooms. It was divided.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, anyway, we had lots of fun.
And Uncle Jim?
Well, I started in first grade in '64, and I was there for, we moved in spring, didn't we?
Yeah.
1950.
And we moved to Lyons. And I was with my brother and sister. Greta was in high school by then.
I graduated.
Yeah, she was so old by then.
Wait a minute, wait a
The
minute.
nurses
Wait a
training.
minute,
Not
back up.
64.
You started first grade in 1964?
No, in the district 64.
Oh.
That was smart for my younger
Calculated.
And we moved to Lyons in the spring, and I used to be with my family, and there were all these strange kids are looking at me. And I go home crying every day for a long time. And I've had a complex ever since. I moved to Lyons, and I graduated from there, and then went to the university, and then went to Greeley, got a master's.
Married that.
Married, yeah, got married my sweetheart.
Nice.
Well, she did, you know. Oh yeah, the love of my life. You are.
And Elliot and Randy, what do you have to say?
Randy and I went to we had more than one Guida schoolhouse,
Is that 43?
District 60. And went there from, they had beginners, which is like kindergarten when I started. And from there to high school, graduated in 61, went to the university, graduated from there in 66, went in the Navy, flew in the Navy, flew for FedEx, retired, moved to the mountain in Wyoming.
That's your sweetheart.
Oh, married and a sweetheart, 67, yes. Yes, that gal, yes, that's, yeah, two lovely children.
Two lovely children.
And here we are in Wyoming. Wonderful time.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, I too went to District 60 country school through the 8th grade, and then went to high school at Oakland, graduated in 68, and went to college for a year, and then here I am.
You married your sweetheart too.
Oh yes, by all means.
Where is she? She's gone.
Way in the back there.
You know, the only thing I remember about District 64, you know, I was their first grade. There are two things I remember. First of all, Miss Strand was our teacher. We went to her home, and her brother, Stan, was it Stan?
Stan.
Went to her home, and her brother made model airplanes. Remember I remember going up in his room, he had a bunch of model airplanes up there. Huge.
Strand?
Yeah.
Strand or Stan?
Strand.
Strand,
Oh,
I thought it was
sorry.
Strand, yeah.
Okay.
I thought it was
Melba Strand.
And also they had like dinners where the wives would make dinners and they'd auction them off and give them to each
Oh,
other.
yeah.
I felt so jealous. I thought my mom's gonna feed somebody else. Remember?
Basket social.
Yeah, basket social. I can remember that my mom's gonna make dinner for somebody else. You know? I can still remember that. I was.
Remember the Christmas programs at the
Oh
school?
yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
Oh,
Sold
gosh.
curtains.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we always got new clothes. Well, we inherited clothes from cousins in Chicago. These were my mom's cousins in Chicago, and they had very nice clothing. And I can remember this one year they had sent us a box of clothes, and they had a blue plaid wool skirt in there with a cream, it had cream in the plaid too, and the sweater was cream colored. And I wore that for my Christmas program, and I thought I was the cat's meow. I was so cute.
And you never changed that opinion of yourself.
Excuse me, director. We want to interject something here, right now. She was Grandma Nelson's favorite.
Can't tell that?
But she
Why
was
do you keep
especially
bringing that up? I can't help it.
Well, it's been bothering us for years.
Well, you're on the record now. Let it all out
We're
now.
not gonna let it go.
I can see that. I mean, she was abusive almost to us. I had a kitten. John and I and her, we each got to pick out a chicken.
That's what it was, a chicken.
And she was so in love with her cat, she choked it to death. So she didn't have a kitten. So then she got mad at us and she threw our kittens down the old outhouse toilet hole. And of course I was screaming. I was screaming. And my father came and he said, what happened? She threw our cats down the toilet hole, Dad. she never got, you know, like she was Miss Queen. And so he got this gunny sack with a rope, brought it down into a hole, and our kittens were so smart. They got on that gunny sack and pulled them out.
They were a little smelly.
So were we by then, so.
Well, speaking
That
of,
was one of the
Well-
things. And then the worst. I was 11 and a half years old in December 25th,
Talk
Christmas.
about who's spoiled.
And that was going to be my last doll. And I wanted a Shirley Temple doll. Because I used to go, Eva Larson used to see that I got to see Shirley Temple movies. And I was in love with Shirley Temple. So I got a... I got the Shirley Temple doll.
Oh, I didn't know all this was going on.
We're letting it out.
Pretty peaceful.
Many times, dear.
Anyway,
They don't want to learn this kind of stuff. That is
she got a doll too with hair. But mine was Shirley Temple with all this curly hair.
pretty hair. I will say it was really pretty hair.
It was, past tense.
And she started combing her doll's hair, and pretty soon all the hair came out.
Well,
So-
it was that string-like yarn, red stuff that was,
No, it
was
wasn't.
ugly. My doll.
No, it wasn't.
Come on
Oh,
here
yes, it was.
and calm them all down.
So,
It was ugly.
instead of composting, we used to have a slop bucket. And it was there, but...
That's the way to change the subject.
And everything was dumped in the slop bucket, and my father bring it down to the pigs, you know? And then so one day, she took my doll, dumped it in the slop bucket. Well, you know, like I said, I was a screamer, I have to admit.
You really admit it.
I was a screamer. And I went berserk. And I'm chasing her, and I'm screaming, and Grandma Nelson said, Lily Barb, are you coming here, Grandma? And here I am,
But I don't remember. I'm sure these are all made up stories. 'Cause I do not remember that.
You don't remember the doll in the slop bucket?
If I really tried, I maybe could.
Greta. Now, put yourself in her, would you admit it? That you threw a doll in the slot?
Oh dear.
She's been doing enough time.
well, speaking of slop buckets
Oh,
and,
yeah, she was only 5.
The tractor's lost control again.
and outdoor plumbing, Elliot, you were speaking earlier this
Yes.
evening about outdoor plumbing versus indoor plumbing.
That's
Could
correct.
we elaborate on that
Finally,
issue?
when I graduated from college, I went to someplace that finally had indoor plumbing. I went to the Navy.
Well, college must have had indoor plumbing.
Oh yeah. I brought a fraternity brother home once, and I told him about it. He said, "Sure." So we ate supper, and Mom fed us, and he said, "I need to go to the bathroom." And I said, "Go out the front door, hang a right, follow the path." He said, "You weren't kidding." I said, "It's for real." And I said, "You don't read many magazines when it's 20 below."
Plus, they're missing a few pages.
We had real toilet paper. We didn't have the Sears Roebuck catalog now. And then,
Well, we got indoor plumbing when Jim was born. Yeah.
so he
You
never
think you-
suffered like you
You
did.
can thank me for something.
I did.
And a shower.
Weren't you glad when I came along? Huh? You were so happy when I came along.
Well, were you happy on Greta? You were telling a story earlier this weekend about going upstairs and seeing.
Oh,
Well, tell us what you saw and how happy were you to hear about Uncle Jim?
I can't even look at him. Anyway,
Yeah.
we were so naive. Like Barb said, our father wouldn't even let us see pigs born. We were so naive. Anyway, I was in the 6th grade, probably halfway through it, and this classmate ahead of me told me, "Your mother's going to have a baby." And I go, "Well, she's not." She's not, because we were the 3 of us. You know, that was it. No, she's not going to have a baby. And I came home, and Mama had ordered a maternity dress from, I don't know, Montgomery Ward or Sears, whatever. And she'd opened the package and laid it on her bed upstairs. And I went up to change my clothes, and I saw this dress sitting on the bed. It was a maternity dress.
And you were so happy.
No, it's just, no, we're going to have another baby. Oh.
No wonder I got shoved in the closet all the time.
But when he came, he was so
Oh, what a...
oh, gosh.
I admit I was.
Big ears and all.
I've been being picked up by my ears all the time.
Well, she wasn't even glad that John came,
No, I know.
because she'd been kingpin for 3 years.
With Uncle Elmer. Oh, I was.
Mm-hmm.
I used to sleep in the same bed as my uncle.
Can't you take him back? Can't you take him back?
Yeah. Uncle Ati. That was my Uncle Ati. John came.
Who was that?
Your father, Uncle Ati.
Ossie?
Ati.
Ati.
Ati, that's all I can say. I couldn't tell him.
Never heard that before.
And I remember the first time here Jim was born in January, and Elliot was born in February, and Jim was just little. And we go to the hospital.
I was only 12 pounds 4 ounces.
I says, "How old is he?"
We told David you were 10 pounds, but you were 12.
12.
Yeah, the doctor slapped me and I slapped him back.
Yeah. And you were how big?
Half of that.
Yeah.
Have you heard that joke about the little, the doctor had to come to deliver the baby, and after he delivered, the other little kid was standing there, and the baby came out, and the doctor gave him a whack on his butt, and the doctor turned to the little, and he and then he turned to the little kid, "You want to give him a whack?" And he says, "No, Doc." No, the kid says, "Hit him again, Doc. He shouldn't have come in there in the first place."
Well, speaking of sibling relationships, just generally, what are your first thoughts when I say what can you describe your relationship to one another? Any one of you to one another. What do you think of?
We had a good childhood.
Yep. Very good. Lots of fun. I enjoyed my growing up years. Thoroughly enjoyed my growing up years.
And going up to Atkinson and
Yep.
Hey.
hey.
Except that I had to rig the scatters all the time. I was the lowest. I was the lowest on the totem pole all
That's
the time.
because you were the youngest, and you
I
had to
had
start
skills. I had skills that were never tapped.
because we quit going up there then.
And
Never
this is
went
how,
after a
What
while.
skills were those?
Well, he never got to know because he never got to use them.
Yeah.
Can you describe just briefly what you're talking about? Where did you go? Where is?
to our grandpa's ranch
In Athens.
in Atkinson, Nebraska. And at that time, and we had electricity, but we didn't have the indoor plumbing bill. You know who was born. But they had these wonderful telephones where you'd have to crank, and we didn't have that. I don't remember that on the farm. At that time, I don't know. We just had the one on the wall, but we never had the crank. Except up at Atkinson, we had that. And then I was so excited to iron because we had to put the iron on the stove to get it hot. And see, we had electric irons, and I thought, here's these big old
Sad
heavy
irons. Sad irons.
sad. Is that what they
Sad irons.
SAT?
SAD.
sad iron. But that was I know, I didn't know that. But anyway, that was fun. I thought, oh God, everybody
So you still love Dyer?
Yeah, I like Iron, yeah.
Yeah, we
It
had
doesn't look
kerosene
like
ladders
it,
up
but-
there, kerosene ladder, we had a
Yeah.
pump for the,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, we had running water, we
And
had a
then
pump for the
Uncle
water.
Stanley had the fancy one, cause it
Yeah.
was a Florida lamp, kerosene, you know.
Well, he had a generator. Didn't he have a generator up there?
Well, they had a power wind generator,
Yeah.
and that charged the batteries, so
Right.
they had
That-
small light in the house,
Mhm.
but, they didn't really do
They had
much.
creeks up there with, and there wasn't any mud.
Oh, it was
sand.
wonderful.
Yeah, tracks, oh, yeah.
We had
Well,
lots
then
of
Mom had to wash clothes with to
Power.
start the old,
engines.
Maytag engine, you know, the old gas engine
Up there,
for
yeah.
running the wash machine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we roughed it up there. That was,
It was like camping,
yeah.
And who's Uncle Stanley? You mentioned him.
our father's youngest brother, Stanley Johnson.
No, Paul was younger.
Paul was the oldest.
No,
Elmer was
I
the
mean, Elmer,
oldest.
and then Paul.
Dad, and then Paul, and then your dad,
And then-
Yeah.
Oh,
Stanley.
and
and
then
Stanley.
Alpha was a baby.
That was a baby.
And Alpha.
oh, okay. I thought Paul was yours.
And I can remember the sheep at Uncle Stanley's with the little lambs we'd have, and Helena would give us a bottle of
I was
milk
telling you about that on the way.
with a big,
Yes, you were, yeah.
yeah, with a nipple, and we'd get to feed the sheep, because our father did not like sheep, because he was a cattleman. And he didn't like sheep.
Well, they didn't really have sheep either, except these few that Aunt Helena
Yeah,
had.
no, yeah.
What did she have, about a dozen? 10 to 12?
And I'll never forget how mad she got at us, because, you know, they didn't have any children. And of course, the favorite up there was Ellen, which was Aunt Alpha's, I mean, I shouldn't say favorite, but that's who
She
they were
was.
used to be around, you know. And they used to have this screen door, and we'd go running out, and that door would slam. And she put up with it about 10 slams, and then she came out. If I hear that door slam once, I don't know what I'm gonna do. And we love this couple. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
No.
I don't want her to yell at us anymore. And that door did not slam anymore after that. Oh yeah.
And Randy and Elliot, you were up there too, out in the sandhills working.
I went out there after my 8th grade, and I was out there with Jim. We were haying.
We were hunters too,
And
weren't
we
we?
were hunting. We killed some poor cocktail.
Big game, huh?
Yeah, and
Wanna.
we
Juana.
we were rakers. That's what
Yeah.
that's what we were doing. And
So he was on low end of the totem pole too, we never got above that.
oh, and I was even younger than him.
Yeah.
See, I remember being up there when Randy was born. We got,
Oh really?
folks got a call, Dad and I, and, you were Barb, we went over, and that's when we bought old Frickin' over in Butte.
No, he had the sailboat, that was there.
Yeah.
No, I was home in Lyons. Mom took the call in Lyons when Randy was, because we didn't even know Aunt Edna was pregnant.
No.
Yeah,
And the phone rang, Mom was home, and Dad, you were probably up here.
yeah, we were up haying.
And,
And I took the phone call at home, because Dad was out working, and I said, that's too bad, Mom wanted a girl. Doc Tibble's call.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you mean your dad wasn't even in there when she?
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Oh.
I've suffered ever since.
That complex.
Yeah.
I was 7, and yeah, he called, and I guess they said, "Oh, that's too bad. My mom wanted a girl." I said, "Your mom just had a boy."
For God's sakes.
What kind of work did you do up in the sandhills, and how did that compare to the chores the regular chores you had to do at home?
Well,
Just hay up there.
Yeah.
Oh, we milked cows.
Yeah, we had a few
Milk
cows.
cows, but yeah,
all the
yeah.
time.
Oh, at the ranch?
Yeah.
well, it's basically to put up
Right.
haystacks, and they weren't any more than what, when we put up hay at home, they were big stacks, because we had these big cages that we used to dump the hay into. Well, which we did up at Atkinson too, but they used to call them, like my husband Roy used to call them doodles, because they just looked like a small, almost like a cow pie, because they used to haul them home in the wintertime on a flatbed. They'd winch them, these haystacks that we supposedly put up in the sand hills. They'd winch them home onto this flatbed and haul them home so they could feed the cattle down in the farm lot or the ranch yard in the winter. Because Dad, we had a hired man up there that lived up there in the winter time. And the neighbors all got together. He went from one ranch to the other putting up hay. There was about, what, 4 or 5 of us?
Yeah, it was us and then Uncle Milton's and Uncle Stanley's and then Bowson's. Uncle Stanley's brother-in-law.
And Cousin Ellen's dad was a very intelligent fellow, and he was
Mechanically.
very mechanically inclined, and he invented the reverse sweep. He took a tractor and reversed the gearbox, and so rather than
Well, they had car sweep first. Uncle Stanley never
Oh,
had
yeah,
car
I remember
sweep.
that.
but didn't he reverse that too?
Yeah, that was reversed. Had the rear wheels in the front,
Yeah.
and that was where the sweep head was, and then later then he took a C tractor and turned that around.
Okay.
But I think that was done in town with Atkinson.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
But didn't he come up with the idea though?
well,
No.
yeah, he did a lot of work with that, get that worked out. But the old car sweep, that was a big thing.
Then you'd buck the hay up to this, what do you call the bucker of the hay stacker?
It was a slide stacker.
Slide stacker, yeah, and then that was my first job, was driving a team of horses, cause then the team of horses would pull the bucket load of hay up the slide stacker, and then it would get to the top and trip over and dump down into the haystack, and then there'd be somebody in the stack putting it together, making it into a nice pile. That was my first one.
Did they brand out there?
No, I don't remember that. Uncle Stanley probably did,
Yeah.
but we didn't.
Didn't you help with Brandy one time, Johnny? 'Cause
Well,
I can remember being.
Grandpa Johnson had the JBJ brand
Yeah.
that went on.
But I don't ever remember helping with it
No,
though.
that was done early in the spring.
Yeah.
Well, after the calves got big enough, really,
Yeah.
so maybe it was in more summer. And Uncle Stanley, see, what was his brand? I forget what his brand was. Maybe it was S.
SBJ,
SBJ.
I think it was.
Could
I think so.
could you all describe your parents? What kind of people that they were? How would you describe them generally?
Well, they were hard working,
Yeah.
but
We worked hard.
they both, Dad had hired men all the time.
Dad fed cattle.
Yeah.
And the hired man lived with us. My mother not only had her family to take care of and wash clothes for, we always had hired men that lived in our house.
In
So,
early
yeah.
years, she had hired girl that helped, because Alice.
But mostly just during the summer.
Yeah,
Wasn't
yeah.
Lola down
Yeah, well,
See, when a child was born, and then she'd get, I think Lola was
Yeah.
when you, and Alice Peterson was when you came, excuse me. You came. But I have to say, I can remember in the summertime, I don't think Dad ever worked on a Sunday. We'd have picnics, family picnics. I don't remember, unless it was really necessary, did he go out in the field on Sundays?
No. We had to do his chores in the morning and at
Uh-huh.
night. We always went to relatives or they
We
came
always
to our
did-
place.
Did
or-
something on Sunday, it was never work.
No.
We had a lot of chores. And that was kind of amazing because we milked cows, and when I went off to the university, my dad sold the cows. Can you imagine?
Then you thought, that lucky Randy.
Yeah, Randy got out of it. So,
Well, your dad was a very good hog farmer.
raised a lot of hogs, a lot of chores, chores.
a lot of hand work.
Oh, yeah.
5-gallon pails, lugging 5-gallon pails full of
Scoop
slop.
shovels.
When he sold those cows, we didn't have that homemade ice cream anymore. Oh,
Oh.
man.
Homemade ice cream, we sold cream. We separated the milk and sold cream. And I'll tell you what, you can make some pretty decent
like to crank the crank, and I'd start it first of all, because that was the easiest part. Then we get down to the hard part, Elliot got to take over.
Well, everybody sold cream and eggs, that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
took them into the,
That was
Yeah, we
good.
had
yeah,
chickens.
that's what the women paid for their groceries with, was money that they got from the cream and eggs they sold.
I remember I had to go pick those darn eggs, you know, setting all those
And those
hens.
set hens at
Oh, man, I take the
Well, you
broom
take the
handle home.
stick, yeah, and
Yeah,
hold their
okay,
head
and
down
then
and
throw 'em.
wing them.
And I loved when these relatives came from Omaha, because they said, "Can we go pick the eggs?" Get in.
Stick your hand right in there,
In their fancy little dresses and stuff.
and they stick their hand in there, and go peck.
Oh, they thought that was so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
the chickens were a lot of fun,
I know,
especially cleaning the chicken house.
They were so
That was a lot of
stupid, those chickens were so stupid. Up in the tree, you know.
Except the banded roosters, that's what I remember. Whenever you had a
They
banded
were
rooster,
ornery.
oh man, they chased me all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
But where were your,
Walking beans in the summer, that was a lot of fun.
Oh, and picking the potato bugs and put them in the kerosene. You guys didn't have to see. I was gonna tell them, no wonder I have back problems and hip problems and everything else. You didn't have to pick the potato bugs and put them in the kerosene.
Potatoes, we bought our potatoes.
Oh,
I doubt that, I bet you would get
Yeah.
Oh, actually,
They
yeah.
had the cellar, you guys had the cellar, you had to.
Well, everybody had a root cellar.
Yeah, we had a cellar.
That's
I
what
guess
kept
we raised
everything.
potatoes.
yeah.
I
I
hated
don't
to go
remember.
in that thing up at the sand hills, cause, you know, sometimes there wouldn't be anybody that would go in there, you know, for a long, and there'd be spider webs hanging down and, yoy.
Every so often a bull snake would be in there.
Oh, gosh,
Oh, I know.
But I wouldn't be in there.
Remember how we took showers up at the sand hills? Remember they had like a tank from a
Yeah.
hot water heater?
Yeah,
And it was always our job, some of us kids' job to
In the
fill
morning,
that thing in the
fill-
morning.
not in the
So
summer,
the
heat.
sun would heat it all day
That's-
long.
That's what we had it at our place.
Yeah,
Well,
they
we
ran
did that.
cruises,
We
please.
did, yeah, we did that
Oh,
too
yeah.
on the old
Yeah.
wash house
Wow, yeah.
on the south
Yeah,
side.
I remember
Yeah.
that, I
Oh,
just
yeah.
remember the shower in the
Had a
basement.
big tank.
That's the only one we had. We didn't have any indoor tub, we didn't have an indoor commode, and we didn't have hot water.
I remember going to your house when your mom was washing clothes or canning, cause you had that separate. Well, did mom never canned in the wash house, she washed out there, I can remember her washing out there. But I remember Aunt Edna,
Well, we had a basement. where we
Basement,
Yeah.
I remember washing in the
That
wash.
guy didn't have a basement.
Mom washed in the wash house.
Yeah, Mom
Oh,
can.
yeah, I
Mom
remember
can.
that.
Remember in the basement, I don't remember the
but
wash.
she didn't.
I don't remember her canning in the
No,
wash.
she canned in the house.
She washed out there, of course, but I don't remember her canning.
I thought she had a good.
And we had that big,
Well, there was.
and we had a cave out there that she put all the canned stuff down in.
Oh, like potatoes and stuff, that kept good.
See, we didn't have a cave, but we had a cellar
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
in
that
the basement.
room.
off of the basement. We
Right,
didn't have a
okay,
cave.
yeah,
We had a cave,
Yeah,
that's right.
yes,
it's like way down in the ground.
yeah,
Must've been about 20 steps going down that thing.
yeah, you guys had a deep one.
Did we have like, or did I dream this? You remember where John and Chloe made it into an office, or it was an office where the telephone was down at Rick's?
That was
Was
there.
there a hole dug in the ground and we used to crank the cream and the milk down it? I
No.
must have dreamed that. I was sure that we had
No,
that.
we never.
No, or else I saw it at somebody else's house and thought it was our place.
I think one of the most traumatic nights, we were coming home from Oakland, and remember that first bridge after, it used to be, what was that, before Harold Anderson.
Down on this walk.
And here was our old pickup on the side of the road, and we go up and we get home. Dad saw it was our pickup, but he thought, because he loaned it to, what hired man was it?
Well, it was,
Floyd or Clarence?
No, no, no.
it wasn't the slot
Uh-uh,
built,
no,
it was
wasn't.
before that. I
Anyway,
forget the gold guys.
he was a drunk.
He was like the sauce.
Oh, anyway, here he is in the bed and he's bleeding.
Ooh.
And remember Dad called the sheriff to
Yeah.
come and get him because he wrecked our pickup and everything. Oh, and we were so scared because the sheriff was coming into our house. And yet we wanted to see, you know. And I'll never forget how scared I was.
When he got hurt in the accident.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was so drunk.
Oh, that brings up another memory.
Uh-oh, now what happened?
Well, Dad had a lot of cattle, so we always had to have a veterinarian out for something or other. And his name was Doc Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And those two would say, you better be careful, because if you aren't good, Doc Johnson will give you a shot. And I'd run upstairs and I'd hide in the bedroom because I was sure, until he would go out of the yard, I would not come down because I was sure he was going to do something. Once in a while, Dad would have him come in for coffee, and then I'd think, oh my God, here he comes. You did. You did. Oh, yeah.
Good for us.
Can you talk about where your parents were born, and when they were born, and when and how they met, and when they married, if you know?
Do you?
What?
Where Mom was born? I don't remember.
Oh, was
December 3rd.
Oh, yeah, on the farm.
I'm sure he was born at home. Yeah.
I
Is
know
down
that,
where-
but.
And this is Mamie Nelson.
Yeah, maybe Nelson Johnson.
Well, I don't know where they lived before they went to Hugo Swanson, because,
I don't either.
see, where Chloe's folks lived, they lived there for a short time.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And,
Yeah.
so, if that was before Hugo Swanson's place,
Probably was after, maybe.
the Mom, we was fortunate, Mom went to District 64 too.
Oh, she did?
Yeah,
Oh,
see,
okay.
our kids was the,
Oh.
third
the
generation of going to District 64,
Oh, okay.
so, that was something unusual.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know how many years she went there.
Well, did they live on, where that big house? Colson.
Oh, the
Colson's?
Now, that was after they was married.
Yeah, that was after. The Preston. When didn't somebody live, didn't Grandma and somebody, was that, when Mom was married, that was where, that was up on the hill, right?
Yeah, that was,
That's where she was married there.
What year was that?
well,
That must have been 30, because I was born in 32.
Then they went to Dixon.
Dixon County would be.
that was later though. That was after the Colson farm. You probably know more about. That was before Uncle Elmer was married.
Right, so that was prior to 37.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what year it was.
They was only.
They were only up there one year.
Yeah.
They dried out up in Dixon,
Yeah.
moved back down on the Colsons.
Yeah.
Was Uncle Elmer up there with them in Dixon?
Yeah.
He was? Okay.
And then,
Bo, you know, he told about come back as a kid and he helped move.
oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
I don't know really how they met with, do you?
Well, she was dating Payne.
And he was dating Ruth
When was
Peters.
Albert now? He was born out in San
Yeah.
Bill's.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was born in
Atkinson.
Atkinson, yeah, he was born in Atkinson.
That was his birthday.
Mom was dating this Morris Payne.
Fifth,
April 9th.
ninth.
Ninth.
And,
What year?
well, 03 was,
Because
1903.
Mom was born in 06.
Yeah,
I thought he was 05.
Yeah, it was 05, and
They was
his dad was
05,
01.
yeah, he
Okay,
was
they was
05.
05.
Yeah, he was 05 and she was
Yeah.
06,
yeah.
yeah. But,
So
and
now,
then
all
Dad
those
was dating
03.
Joanne Peterson's mother, Ruth Nelson.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Anyway, they had a little fender bender.
Thornblad.
They
Thornblad.
had a fender, they
There
had a
you go.
fender bender, and Mom got her, I don't know, cut her lip or something like that. Dad went to visit her and this type of thing, and then they started dating, I guess. That's the story I got, and I'm sticking to it.
Where was the fender bender?
You know,
It's probably in Oakland, you know.
yeah, it's a big
Well, I think Dad, the way I remember, I thought Dad helped come upon the accident or something.
Oh, he did? Is that what it was?
And that's how they kind
Oh,
of,
oh,
yeah, that's the way I remember the story.
Well, didn't he work at Wallerstead's too?
Huh?
Didn't he work for Wallerstead's?
Yeah, you see,
Sid Wallace.
Yeah.
they come down, Uncle Elmer, Dad, and Uncle Stanley would come down during the fall
Harvest.
after haying was done, and help pick corn down here.
Oh, yeah.
And they first started with Uncle Swen, Dad's Uncle Swen, and then, found out, and then they would go to different other places, and that's how he got to help Sid Wallersted's for a couple falls.
Okay.
And that's how that come about. That's how they ended up down here then.
And the two of them started farming together.
Yeah, in 27, I think.
And they lived by the park down there, going to West Park, weren't they?
Yeah,
In
well,
that area
kind of
somewhere.
where the co-op fertilizer
Right,
plant is
right,
now.
yeah.
They have a lot of fun down there, and we don't know about it.
Yeah, it's possible.
We never heard a lot of stories from that.
And then Cat Carlson was one of their really good friends. And,
Oh, that's Uncle Stanley's friend.
yeah, but they were all gone together. They were pretty wild, I think.
I think so.
Stanley and Cat were.
Yeah,
They were young.
young whippersnappers.
Footloose and fancy free.
Can you talk? You've talked a little bit about Grandpa Albert's and Uncle Elmer's, their childhood, their past and siblings. Can you talk about Grandma Mamie and her?
She was an only child.
Her mother had several
Only
miscarriages.
surviving child.
Surviving.
There's two little graves at the Oakland Cemetery that were mom, brother, and sister. And,
Well, one was stillborn, and the other one lived, what, about 3 days, I think Mom said? Yeah.
The mom was a tomboy. She was her daddy's girl. She definitely was. I don't know if Grandma was that warm to Mom growing up. Maybe because
She was outside.
Well, they all come out of the sand hills and come down to Byrd County and pick corn and stuff like that. That's how they ended up migrating out of that.
yeah,
And, but
Dog?
that's how they ended up down in Byrd County, as far as I know.
yeah.
They came down to pick corn and to make $1.98, I guess.
Sure.
And,
Well, it was pretty poor existence out in the sand hills, cause,
Stanley was the last one, I think, that came down.
yeah.
And,
But then he ended up, marrying Angelina, so then he ended up staying out there. And well, he worked on the ranch first before then Angelina's husband, he got killed or
Committed
committed
suicide.
suicide.
She was kind of a wealthy widow.
Yeah.
good looking too.
I'm sorry. Who is this?
Angelina, Uncle Stanley's wife.
Stanley.
It was Jim
First
Riser.
wife.
Mom, you told me a story once about the orphan train. Can you talk about that?
Well, Greta knows more about that. Mom never told me. She told Greta, and Greta was pretty, we were beyond teenage years before she ever said anything. We didn't know she
It
had
was
a
pretty
brother.
traumatic. They used to have these orphans that came over, I guess Sweden mostly, and they were kind of placed, in New York, and they were called orphan trains, and these people in the Midwest, like farm families, they would sort of apply for these orphans as they came into the town. They would send these orphans on these trains, and periodically they'd stop. And this one young man, I think he probably was about 8 or 9 when Mom's parents got this young child, and he was pretty rebellious.
Weren't they kind of lined up on the platform? and
Yeah, they
picked
just
them?
sort of picked them,
Huh?
Come on, stage.
Yeah, this young boy. And he was kind of rebellious. It was probably traumatic for him, for sure. Leaving his family over the old country. And anyway, all I know is he was probably about between 12 and 13. He ran away, and they never did see him again. Basically. So.
Well, a lot of the families that didn't have many children or lost a child or so,
Yeah.
they needed extra help. And so that was the reason they picked a lot of these orphans off these trains, was for the help. And some of them
good parents and some were not good parents.
Can you talk about when and why you moved into town? That is the four of you.
Well, Dad had rented the cruise farm for, that was about 12 years or 13 years, I guess it was. And then Dad and Uncle Elmer bought this farm up in Rosalie, east of Rosalie. So then Dad moved a hired man out there and bought the house in Lyons. So
Well, he just wanted to
he
do,
commuted from town up there and then he had a couple hired men.
but he just wanted to have something of his very own. He had been working
Yeah.
for somebody else all those
Yeah,
years
yeah.
and
I remember Rick Cruz was not very happy. I can still remember them arguing up in the field. I was just a little kid. I was there. They were arguing back and forth. We came home. Mom was crying, and because they Rick basically kicked us down. I think is what the deal was. And
Dad had been good to him too.
well, yeah, I was glad to have him back. But when he came back, Rick Cruz he was a high roller from Omaha, and he worked at the stockyard. He was a cattle buyer, and he was a very wealthy man. And Dad, gave him his life.
Well, I always wished we'd sat down with Grandma Nelson,
Oh,
who
I
came
know.
over from Sweden.
Oh yeah.
She was born in 1884, came over at 16, all alone. And, and all
Knowing they could
all
never go back.
all the stuff she did, she never saw her family
Yeah.
again.
I know,
Why
they
did
knew
you
that.
do it? I asked her once why she did it, she didn't know.
Oh, was that right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I mean,
And, if I'd, because at that time in the 70s, whatever, we had a, tape recorder, you could have taped it. And,
but I don't think any of us could ever do that.
No.
no,
Knowing you could
No.
never see your family again.
no,
Would've been
and they never
tough.
did.
I don't think I could have done it. I would have just.
Because she said her brother was secretary to the King of Sweden, somewhere in the early.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, he
Yeah,
was in
he
the
was
secretariat somewhere.
Yeah, and he chided her for how bad her Swedish was getting, her writing. They wrote her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my word.
And, some of those old Swedes, some Germans, Czechs, whatever, if you could sit down and they're doing that here in Laramie now.
Were they?
Yeah, they're getting some of these old folks, and they're just sitting down. What did you do and when did you do it? Why? What did your parents do? And they're recording it. Smithsonian, I think, is in
Well, I don't know, Jester always said that on Mom's side, his grandmother, she was kind of mean. She kind of pushed a lot of them away to go over here because
But maybe
She
that
just
was,
kinda
maybe
ordered.
that was her way of
pushing them out.
separation,
Yeah.
rather than,
Well, they couldn't afford the kids back home.
yeah.
And if they had relatives over here that were working, or I guess they rode back and forth, and then they'd put them on the boat and say goodbye and never saw them again.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is. I don't know how they could do it.
Well, there's that statue in Sweden, where the lady is looking back and he's
Yeah.
looking forward and she's looking back.
Oh, really?
Like her, right to her family. And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
he's looking forward to his future.
I have a question. Okay, some of you went to see some of the relatives that are still in Sweden, correct? Or not correct?
Oh,
No.
Greta
Or am I
and I
thinking
went
on my
there.
other side of the family?
Yeah. There's no one there that we know anymore. Yeah. We kind of just saw the provinces.
Well, I wrote a letter a year or two ago. Several years ago, there were some folks that came to Oakland to visit somebody, I can't remember who now. And anyway, Dad talked to them and told them about, because Grandma Johnson had two sisters that came over. I don't know if they were in Holt County for a while or whatever, but they didn't like it here. They went back to Sweden. And Dad told these people everything he could think of, the names, et cetera, et cetera. So whoever these people were, they wrote back, with what they thought was names and addresses and that. And I wrote to one of these folks, but the letter came back unopened, so we hit a dead end there.
Well, Chesterton, a lot of the records are in these churches.
Yeah.
And so if you could find the right church, you know, you
Yeah.
could
Well, the
trace back
problem,
their
with the
history.
Swedes were like our great-great-grandpa was Nels Olson, and his son was Olaf Nelson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And his son was Gilbert Nelson, who was our grandpa, our mom's dad. And so you start doing that back and forth and trying to do the genealogy on that, and it's very difficult. And sometimes the people over there, we got friends in Gothenburg, and they would assign you a name. If there's 18 Andersons working for you, he would give you a different name.
I was trying to find out where Grandpa Johnson came from. You know, going through the Ellis Islands, you know, well, I mean, there were several Jon Johnsons that came through at that time, but then other people came in through New Orleans. Some people came in through Florida. You know, those ships didn't all go to New York, and so you don't know exactly where it came from.
John Victor came from Sweden, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. He came on a boat, and I do know that. Remember when he was 80 years old, is up in Atkinson, or in O'Neill, and the radio station came to interview him. Yeah, interviewed him.
Oh, really?
And he was talking about the boat ride. He lost a brother. A brother died on a trip over, and he was buried at sea.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was telling.
That might be in the archives of the paper, the O'Neill paper.
That was a radio station that interviewed him.
Oh.
I think it's in the paper now. But it's, so I try to find it, just going through Ellis Island, and I try to figure about how old he would have been in 1891 or whatever he came over.
I can remember
19, I suppose.
Grandpa Johnson, he wrote news in
Yeah.
Celia
paper.
knew. Celia
Yeah,
knew.
so he was
Educated.
talented in that way. I don't know what his education was, but
Well, but he had pretty much, I suppose he had 6th grade.
well, I suppose.
Well, and then we lost all those papers when that lady wouldn't, remember? Uncle Stanley had a lot of the papers, but then when he moved everything down to Texas, and then they passed away, and then that lady,
Patty.
that's where we lost a lot of those
Martha's niece.
needs.
Oh, yeah. Ellen had a lot of the articles, and Patty Wondercheck
Yeah, they
has.
probably have.
Has some? Okay.
Really?
He wrote that Celia News for years.
Oh, yeah, that was.
He was quite a politician, too.
Yeah, he wrote a sarcastic one when I was born. It's in my baby book.
Really? What did it say?
Oh, just something about, I had this big kid.
Really?
He was not a loving grandpa, I'll have to tell you.
Yeah, I remember,
He was
even
not.
as young as I am compared to the rest of you. I'm waiting to get my shots in on that. But yeah, Grandpa Johnson, you got near enough to him, and he'd whack you with his cane.
Or triple
Oh,
C.
yeah.
Or whatever, he thought that was
That
great
was
fun,
funny,
so you
yeah.
soon learned to stay out of range.
Yeah.
He wouldn't talk to you.
We had, remember the first scandal in our Johnson side was his father, remember, he abandoned the family
Yeah, he
and
went up to
moved
Canada. Yeah, bought a quarter up there.
And that was really something,
Oh, see, I
Well,
Way
did.
back
he
then.
eventually
Remember
came
Stanley,
back.
they sold that land?
Yeah.
He came
That's
back
right.
because,
And that's how
and
he
then
got the-
they
that's how
split
they got
because
it.
his wife moved down to
Yeah, so,
Oakland.
yeah.
And when
Yeah.
he died up there,
yeah.
my dad said he foundered on cake or something like that.
That's what he said. I don't know when it's Christmas Eve. They shipped the coffins down to Oakland and they're buried there. Buried in unmarked graves. We think we know where they're at. Yep.
Buried next to C. August, which would have been Grandpa Johnson's brother. Buried up there in the Oakland Cemetery.
Yeah.
There's 2 graves that are unmarked
Yeah.
there. Dad always said that's where they're buried.
Who's buried there? Great-grandpa?
Yeah, great-grandpa and great-grandma.
John Victor's dad and mom.
So where was this land located in Canada?
Near
Saskatchewan?
Swift Current, Saskatchewan.
And how long was it in the Johnson?
He went up there about 1918.
Long time.
No, it was a long time.
Stanley went up to see the land, didn't he?
Yeah, Dad and Uncle.
Yeah.
Oh, they both did it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did you sell it? When was that sold?
We were married, and Danny and I were married, so.
Well, your dad was gone, so it would have been after 77, so it was probably in the early 80s.
Yes.
We got the,
little bit
I
in
know
there.
we still got the, estate file, because
it
everything
took a couple
would
years
have,
to get everything.
Yeah, and I didn't get that, so that was.
but,
Yeah.
a lot of
Denver got your,
We got our, I bet the lot,
because all the living heirs at that time had to become there.
Oh.
Somewhere in the 80s.
So your mom got
Yeah.
some, but,
Yeah.
you know, then you guys,
I think we
We
got
got a little bit.
$200 or something each.
The lawyers did well there.
yeah, because that has Canadian lawyers as well as US lawyers.
There are no lawyers in the family that do well.
The only thing was, our dad was born in 1901 in Atkinson, #1 kid of John B. and
J. Victor.
J. Victor and Alma. And Mom was born in 1909 in Oakland, Nebraska, to Gilbert and Anna Nelson. And they got married in February 7th, 1937 in Oakland. And Greta May was the flower girl.
I was.
We got pictures of that.
How many children did your folks have?
They had 4.
That's 4.
And let's see.
Mornon was the firstborn, and,
Yeah.
well, make a long story short, he swallowed a safety pin. They took him to Lincoln to do surgery and so on and so forth.
Omaha,
Listen,
Omaha.
or was it Omaha? Okay,
Yeah, they
well,
gave too much ether. Died of
died
ether
of ether
pneumonia.
pneumonia. This was back in
8 months old.
He was old?
8 months.
Yeah. So, second child was Stanley, and he was born with, well, I don't know, cerebral palsy, and
I
he
think
died.
it's spelled forceps.
It was. That was that doctor.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Horse doctor.
Oh,
He was born in
it
1941,
wasn't Benson.
and he died in 1958.
59, I think it was.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll never
And then Moose here. And then little tiny me.
The run.
Yes.
And what was the name of your hired hand?
Well,
Homer Hibbs.
Homer Hibbs.
Moved in with the folks about 1944 and stayed until he died in
He
1962.
was more like a grandpa-y guy.
He really was.
He really was a good guy.
Because neither Elliot or I knew our Grandpa Nelson, and, you know, Grandpa Johnson, as I said earlier, you really couldn't get close to him, so, no.
What about Grandma Johnson? Any memories there?
She died before,
Yeah, died before I was born.
I think she died in 44.
yeah.
I have pictures of me standing by her. She was in a wheelchair because I had arthritis very, very severely.
And she died.
But I don't remember
I think
her
she died.
at all.
I think she died in 44.
Yeah, well, that would have been 6 years old.
Yeah.
Then he married Christine when? Do you remember?
48?
I don't know.
Really?
I don't know.
48 or 50.
Married more than once?
Yeah.
Yeah, before we went to Lions.
Oh, I don't think so, because I can remember her coming to the cruise farm.
Oh, yeah, I would be,
Yeah,
but before, see, if it was 48, she moved up there in 50.
Yeah, I can remember him bringing her to the, and introducing us.
Yeah, I can
to
remember
her.
that too.
Yeah.
That was quite a dramatic
Oh.
thing for us.
It was.
I never
She
did that.
smelled money at the end of
Oh,
that.
man, did she.
Yeah, because all the, well, going back to the Canada land, all that, you know, because Grandpa Johnson kind of took care of it, and all of his siblings died, and he died, well, then Christine took over. And then when they, yeah, and then when they started
Henry?
yeah, and they started looking into it, Uncle Stanley checked up there, because Grandpa Johnson had a separate bank account for it. That bank account had been long closed. Money was gone.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we're talking about, but it's gone.
Yeah, she owned it.
Well, that was always a lot of fun getting to, because, you know, we got together with the Johnson family more so than on
Oh,
Mom's
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we did all our socialization.
Oh, yeah.
Was birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving.
Everything was.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier. Jim and I used to at Christmas time we'd draw. Always got each other's names.
It's amazing how that happened.
We'd find out what kind of capgun you want.
That's right. That's right.
And we get the same.
I remember a cute Christmas story about Jim, where we lived.
That was always cute.
Well, yeah, but this is a cute story. Anyway, we lived at Rick's, and of course the living room was always closed off until we had company, and then they'd light the space heater. There was a stove that sat up in the middle of, or not the middle of the room, along the wall, up to the chimney of the house. When company came, then they'd start the stove, and we could use that room. Well, they always set the Christmas tree up in that room because it stayed cool and the Christmas tree would last longer. Well, this one night before Christmas, or afternoon, I don't know what it was, evening or not, but anyway, we couldn't find Jim. And of course, all the presents were under the tree. And
Where are we going with it?
we went in the room, and there he was. He'd gotten a silver airplane. And here he was. Yes.
I can't believe I did.
Oh, you did.
Why, I was thinking delayed.
And I was the one that was the pilot.
I know. That's because I
And my
crashed
mother,
today.
she would hide our presents the same place every year. And I have the worst. I couldn't stand it. I had to look every year. I always knew what I was getting. But I was always surprised when I got them.
It was always.
That's why she was such a sweet little girl.
Yeah, or else when we got
Is
the
that why she
lions.
was such a sweet little girl and the favorite?
Then when we got the lions, they were in her clothes closet behind.
In the clothes closet, yeah.
There was that shelf behind that the clothes rod.
We knew exactly
I
what we
know,
were.
here, I gotta write some of this. I can remember Mom trying to teach me how to cut the chicken's head off. I forgot that one.
Cut what off?
The chicken's head.
She saw it, or did she hack it with a hatchet?
Wow.
With a corn
She tried,
Yeah,
corn,
that's
and
right.
she tried to teach me.
Well,
how to
I
do
remember
it. I'd do that for
your mom telling Trish and I one time, you know, your folks hadn't been married too long out there on Rick's, and she had to fix dinner for.
No, that was up in Houston.
Was it well, whatever. Anyway, she had to go out and catch a chicken and chop the head off and.
It was the first time, her first experience.
Yeah.
That's all she
She
needed.
got it done.
My mother?
Yes.
But she never begun it.
Oh, really?
What? Cooked it with the intros in it.
See, Kaylee, even my mom, she learned how to cook, and even that too.
Yeah, and what the sad part was the landlord was coming, you know, to visit.
Good for Rick.
And no, it wasn't Rick. It was up in
Not up
Dixon.
there.
Oh, it was up in Dixon.
And so she was gonna.
That makes kind of a
So she
smelly.
was gonna make a chicken, you know, it's a chicken dinner, and she was gonna roast it.
Oh my
And so she went out, she cut her head off, she took the hot water, plucked all the feathers. They started the stove, put it in the pan, put it in the oven. Comes time for the serve the dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Because her mother never taught her to cook.
Well, she was never in the house, and she was out with her dad. She was a town.
More chicken, no.
Oh, that was it's just, she was so embarrassed, she just cried and cried.
You know, you can't make chicken salad without chicken water.
That had to explode.
Oh, it was terrible.
That would smell good.
Oh.
Oh, I guess it didn't smell too well.
Well,
Your
anyway,
grandma wasn't the only one that did things like that, huh?
well, anyway, your mother knew how to make good lutefisk. Some of you children apparently
We will never know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You never ate it?
I don't know.
I did. That was the only one I really ate.
I like it.
Oh.
And her oostercock.
Oostercock. Now there you go. Now you're
That's good.
Now you're
That
talking.
was
Grandma Nelson and your mom and oostercock. Shoo, man.
And I can remember our birthdays, we always had food cake.
Yes.
Oh.
Whipped by hand. No electric mixers either. And her mom had that big crock bowl. She'd sit there and sit. I don't know how long it took her.
I don't know.
How many minutes.
She'd say the egg yolks and then later we'd have a
chiffon cake.
We'd have Cleopatra come in and out.
He always
Big
took the
pictures.
picture. Yeah.
And the
We've
pictures
got
of the
a-
cowboy outfit cut Mickey.
We've got a picture, I don't know if you've got a copy of it or not, we've got it in our stuff somewhere, but it's out at the cruise place, somebody's birthday.
There's
I don't
everybody.
think I was born yet, but it was somebody's birthday, because, yeah,
Packwoods
Packwoods were there,
He took all
Cruz
those
was
pictures.
there.
Oh, that big,
and,
9 by 12 or 8 by 11 picture.
Oh, yeah.
You also
So,
had,
You still have-
know,
I got some. I got
and,
some of
your
John
mom
with
was
his
getting ready
4-H
to cut the
cab.
picture, picture and that,
Yeah.
so
And then,
his birthday.
and then Pat would, remember the grandson came in one time. And we're, I don't know, we were going through the photos.
Junior, his name, but what was his dad's name?
Harold Jr.
Harold Jr.
Anyway, here's this kid and he'd wet his pants and all these years we look at the picture, never saw it. And he goes, look at that kid. We're crying. She hasn't even done it. We're too long. I did it. We just had never seen it. Back with grandson.
Dad told one story one time when they were all still home with the kids, you know how big Uncle Paul was. Well, Grandpa Johnson, I don't know, it was after dinner time or whatever, but he decided they were going to have prayer meeting at the table.
Read the Bible.
Yeah, or whatever. Well, Uncle Paul went out to do chores, so Grandpa Johnson went out and took a switch and was going to give him what for. Well, as big as Uncle Paul, that didn't work. I guess he took it away from Grandpa Johnson, threw it away, and went about his business. Dad said that was the end of the...
That was the end of the Bible reading. He said with a straight face, that didn't happen anymore. Uncle Paul said no more. Uncle Paul was big enough to...
Yeah, well, they butt heads. They did butt heads, you know. I think he was the only one that stood up to Grandpa, really.
Could be.
I don't think the rest of them did.
Yeah, could be.
Oh, I bet Uncle Stanley did.
Later.
Later.
Grandpa got older.
Yeah, but not as a young man.
He needs some more ice for that scotch.
Well, anyway, that's the story of our life.
We've only got about 1 minute of video left. Is there anything in particular, not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. Is there anything in particular that any of the 6 of you would like to say for posterity? No pressure.
Well, we still get along.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, we still get along.
Buy a longer tape and we can resume this the next time.
Yeah, why not? Well, I just like to say I just always been very grateful for the family I was born into. They've always been very good people and hardworking